Back. You're tuned in to Chartbusters here on CNBC-TV18. Now, as promised, let's get chatting with the management of Century Plyboards. Remember that stock is on our radar on the back of a CLSA downgrade that we saw. Just yesterday, the note came out. They've downgraded the stock to sell from a buy earlier. To discuss this and more and the outlook for FY20, we have Mr. Keshav Bhajanka, the Executive Director of the company. Hi Keshav, thanks so much for joining in. Well, you know, the sore point really in this CLSA report as well as over the last few quarters has been the way MDF prices have been falling. I'm just comparing it on a, on a yearly basis. It appears prices are down by nearly around 20%. It could be added capacity that's coming on stream, that's pressurizing prices as well. Where does this stop? Do you believe that the MDF prices have bottomed up at least now?
I do believe the MDF prices are pretty much close to the bottom. I don't think the drop has been as steep as 20%, but yes, there's definitely been
12% is it on a year-on-year basis.
Yes, it has been in excess of 10%. You see, what has happened is there's overcapacity in the industry. Even though the industry is growing at 20% plus, this overcapacity means that people are under pressure to sell their capacities using whatever means possible, and this normally leads to price cuts. However, price cuts have been hugely ineffective for the industry as a whole. I don't think anyone has substantially gained by reducing prices. At the same time, margins have been falling. So I think this is probably the bottoming out of the price war. Having said that, our capacity utilization is quite good, and I believe that going forward, we should be looking at an upswing in margins as well as the reversal in the price trend.
All right, Keshav, if you could give us a couple of data points then. One, what is your capacity utilization? Secondly, what is the industry's capacity utilization? And have you put your capacity expansion of MDF on hold?
Our capacity utilization currently is in excess of 80%. The industry's capacity utilization...
This is on what capacity? 80% is on what capacity?
On the rigid capacity of 600 cubic meters per day.
Okay.
Now, the industry's capacity would be close to, capacity utilization would be closer to 60%.
Okay.
And we have not shelved our plans to go for an expansion. We are definitely looking for an expansion because at the current rate of growth, I think we'll be fully utilizing our capacities within FY20 itself.
Okay, so you're expecting to be at 100% capacity utilization by the end of this year, closer to optimum capacity utilization. So you'll go ahead with your capacity addition plans. Could you just brief us on that? What is the kind of capacity you're looking to add in which segment? And what is the cost? What is the capex for all of this?
So we'll be looking to add about 50% of total capacity within the lower end segment, the low thickness segment of the market rather. So MDF sells from anywhere between 2 mm to about 30-32 mm, and we'll be adding capacity between the 2 to 10 mm segment. In this, we'll be looking to add about 300 cubic meters of capacity, and the rough capex would be much lower than the capex pro rata because the existing infrastructure is already set up. So I think the total capex for this unit would be closer to 120 to 125 crores.
Okay. And you have the funding secured for that, is it?
Yes.
All right. Keshav, a couple of questions now. We move away from MDF to your mainstay.
Having said this,
go ahead.
This is not a frozen capex as of yet. We are still in the exploration stage, but yes, we have not shelved the project. We are aggressively pursuing the same, and we are coming up with a call as and when we move along.
So just to confirm that, you're going to be adding capacity in the MDF division, right?
Yes. We are in plans to add capacity, but the plan is not frozen yet.
Okay, so that's despite the fact that, the industry is functioning at around 60%, and you have a lot of your competition and some of those larger players as well that have been adding capacity. The smaller players have been also, coming into this division. Yet you believe that, that you want to go ahead and add capacity in the MDF division. I got that right?
Yes, yes, yes.
But won't that put more pressure then on prices?
You see, we have been able to sell our capacity as being the highest price in the market. Currently, I think we are selling at a premium to every other brand that is available. This price war, as I told you, is nearing its end, and I believe there's going to be a reversal in fortunes very soon. Going forward, we are going to be functioning at a higher capacity utilization, and I believe we will require additional capacity because the demand from the market is good for our product. So going forward, I think this trend is likely to reverse within the next financial year itself. And by the time our capacity comes on board, we should be looking at a higher EBITDA margin.
Right. Keshav, let's move on to the mainstay of the business, which is the plywood business. Now, out there, the belief is that the transition from unorganized to organized has been very slow. Secondly, people are looking or downtrading, looking at the lower variant of the products. And then there is cannibalization from MDF itself. So, margins looking bleak in plywood as well?
Were under pressure in plywood, but now they're fairly stable. Now, the reason behind margins looking bleak in plywood, lower in plywood, were that the cost of certain raw materials, such as phenol, which is a huge component of the plywood cost, has steeply risen. Phenol is directly linked to crude, and phenol contributes to about 5 to 7% of the total cost of plywood. Now, the cost of phenol had increased by nearly 60% over the course of last year. Now, phenol prices have reduced, and they look to be fairly stable again. So, I think plywood should not be under pressure going forward.
Okay, Keshav, final question. I remember the last time you joined us, you told us margins will improve in the second half of the year. We don't want to ask you about that because we'll wait by for your numbers. But FY20, you believe the margins will improve from year on? And if yes,
definitely.
By how much? Just give us a ballpark number very quickly.
You see, certain segments, such as laminates, are going to be doing far better. Okay. In MDF, like I told you, I believe our capacity utilization...
Quantify it, right? If you could quantify it for us. I think for the first 9 months, you've done around 14.5%. If it can improve from here, is it 100 basis points, 50 basis points? What kind of a number can you give us?
We will definitely be looking at 15% plus.
15% plus margins, that's at least 50 to around 80 basis points higher than what you did in the first 9 months. Thanks so much, Keshav, for joining in and giving us all those details. MDF prices bottoming out. Well, the management has believed that for the last couple of quarters, and now they're saying they're sure about that. So we'll track, those prices as well. Moving on then, let's shift focus then to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive news break. Jet Airways has received 4 EOIs with Air Canada seeking more time to submit their EOI. Ritu has been on top of that story. She joins in to fill us in with all those details. Ritu.
Well, as of last night, Nigel, even before the lenders extended the deadline, we're given to understand that at least 4 expressions of interests were submitted by private equity players, but no strategic players have come forward as of now. These 4 players include one, of course, National Infrastructure and Investment Fund, NIIF. There's also TPG Capital, as we have been reporting, very much interested in picking up stake in the airline. Indigo Partners, as well as the 4th player, which is a consortium of Think Equity and Redcliffe Capital, a little-known private equity firm. Think Equity is based out of US. This is a company where lenders are still doing due diligence to understand the kind of appetite they have to acquiring a stake, a large substantial stake in Jet Airways. Once the bids are scrutinized, only the qualified bidders will be allowed to submit their binding bids by the 30th of April. But that said, there is time till the 12th of April, which is when the deadline has been extended to, for more players to come forward. And we're given to understand that Air Canada is one such player that has been in talks with lenders, and it is on their request that the deadline was extended. They are keen to submit a bid and are likely to do so by Friday. Another player that remains in the fray is Etihad Airways. As we have been reporting, they continue to be in talks with lenders, and perhaps the hope is that before the end of that 12th April deadline, they will also come forward with a bid for Jet Airways. And now, while all of these players have currently submitted bids independently, we're also given to understand that Indigo Partners, NIIF, as well as TPG may come together to form a consortium as well, if their individual bids are approved. So we'll wait to hear more on that front. But important developments coming in there. We'll find out the final names only on Friday.
All right, Ritu, thanks a lot for